Yo, shout out to the Most High, the top of the eyes, even though Lawrence State, you know what I'm saying? It's LD's, also known Lawrence the One, for another episode I Need to Know of my special guest. Introduce yourself.
Hello.
Hey.
Hi, I'm Tamekia Nicole.
That's how you know you special, when you got two first names. For sure. So everything cool?
Everything is good.
Okay, for sure. Getting the mic a little bit?
Yeah. I saw old boy signaling over there.
Yeah, he was, So, yeah, you caught that, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're a woman, you got to be on point. You're like, what was that about, huh?
Uh-huh.
So, Miss Tamekia.
Yes.
Okay, I read your book called Love Made Me Do It.
Hey. What'd you think?
What did I think? I have a different respect for it. You've been through a lot.
I have been through a lot, but what I have learned over the past few years is
Get a little bit closer in the mic because this gets good.
what I have been through a lot, but what I have learned over the last few years is that my story is not unique. There are many stories like this, especially in our community and within our culture, but the story is unique for me. Of course, I went through something I had never experienced before, and unlike statistics, I made it out on the other side.
Gotcha. So you definitely don't look like what you've been through.
No, I don't look like I smoked crack for 10 straight years.
You know what's crazy? When you told me that, now we're gonna have a free-flowing conversation.
Absolutely.
So when you told me that, I was like, because just a week before, and I'm just gonna come out and say it.
Yes, please do.
When I asked somebody would they ever marry a prostitute, you know, and they was like, no. I said, well, would you ever marry somebody that used to smoke crack? You know, he said, yeah. I said, well, you don't automatically assume that if a woman smoked crack, you know, for a minute, then she probably would have.
It's a trifecta.
Okay. So
I see where you're going with this.
So before we even get into that, I want to talk to you about who were you before, like the demise, so to speak. Talk about your childhood a little bit.
I think that's a really interesting perspective to base a question around. I grew up in a single parent home, grandparents present on my mom's side and on my dad's side.
All four?
Yes.
That was one of my Facebook questions. How many people know all four of they
Yes.
Okay.
I grew up in the household with both sets of grandparents.
Wow, that's a blessing.
It is a blessing. My grandmother, bless her heart, one of my grandparents my last grandmother, no, I lost my train of thought.
Okay.
Cut that. Granny, I have two grandmothers left. Well, I had two. Granny, she just passed away at 92, and that was last February.
Okay.
And then I have another grandmother, my last living grandparent, who is going to be 87 this summer.
Okay.
So I've been very fortunate. The people in my family, the women tend to live a little bit longer. My granny's eldest sibling died at 102.
Well, you know what I'm about to say? You said women in your family typically live longer. After I read that book, I'm like, she for sure got 9 lives. You know what I'm saying?
So back to how I grew up. My mom had just me and my brother.
Okay.
And my dad had 5 of us. Four girls and 1 boy, and we all are 5 years from the one ahead of us, except for my last 2 sisters came 9 months apart.
Oh, so they're like Irish twins.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And, I feel like I had what I felt was the typical upbringing. I didn't really internalize that we were poor.
I was just going to ask you that. Would you agree or disagree that when there's love in the house, especially for a black family, you don't know that you're poor?
I agree with that to some extent. And I think the extra love in my house came because my grandparents
of course
were present. And they did for us what they didn't do for their own children, because I feel like all of us, culturally, we are our grandparents' saving grace.
Of course.
For what they didn't know to do with our parents, they did with us.
So I always make this parallel, right? Michael Jordan won 6 championships. The first 3, he was more athletic, right? The second 3, he wasn't as athletic, but he was smarter. I'm saying all that to say this is that parents have the energy, but grandparents have the wisdom.
Absolutely. And I feel like typical single parent household. My mom worked graveyard the entirety of my childhood, so that gave a lot of leadway for me not to be doing what I was supposed to be doing or what was expected of me at whatever age. I was literally sneaking out the house for years.
Were you tied in closely with your other siblings from your paternal side?
Not until later in life.
When you say later, are you talking about after 18?
No, not that late. I would say around early teenage years, I started becoming closer and being really introduced to my oldest sister. The baby of the bunch, we were really close because for a period of time, I lived with my paternal grandparents.
Okay.
So we got to be really, really close. But present day, I'm very close to all of my sisters. I do have estranged relationships with my brothers.
Gotcha. And which one of your siblings reminds you of you the most?
You know, it's funny. Me and my sisters were actually just having this conversation. I feel like at different phases in my life, I have been like a mirror image of one of my siblings. And I think that's the best part about having sisters or siblings, period, is that you can look at what they're doing and think back to what you were doing at their age. So it's a good way for me to kind of keep a good balance and a check and balance of where I'm at and what I can advise my sisters based on where they're at and what I've already experienced at their age.
Dope, dope, dope. You answer questions like a politician. I like that. I like that.
I think I've learned to be a little more non-direct, but still being able to say the same thing. I think after my book came, after I published Love Made Me Do It, I became more vulnerable than what I had imagined. Transparency is good. I had a lot of people that reached out to me. I had good reactions. And there's a lot of weight that comes with something like that. And I started wanting to pull back a little bit because, as you know, people on the internet, they think like they know you.
Yeah.
And just because I share a lot of things about my life, especially the things that most people would probably keep in the dark, you still don't know me.
When you wrote the book, did you feel like you got a lot of stuff off your chest?
Yeah, it was definitely a therapeutic process. And to be quite honest with you, one of the things that propelled me to write the book is I felt like I was finally coming into a healing space. I was fresh out of prison. I was reconnected with people who I thought I would never be reconnected with based on my behavior when I was an addict. So.
Okay. And this is what I want to know. The book, right? We finna get into the book like right now.
Okay.
Before all the madness, the street life in the book transpired, what was your last happy year?
Oh, I hadn't had a happy year in a really, really long time. I was in a severely abusive relationship. So I would say my happiness was fleeting during the 10 years that I wrote about in the book. But if I had to say, I can't even pinpoint a happy year because a lot of those
I'm talking
years,
childhood years, high school years.
Oh, you want to just...
Yeah, right before, before you met the guy.
Okay, let me reprocess. One of the happiest years. Maybe I didn't have that happy of a childhood. Maybe I didn't have that happy of an upbringing. I don't think that it was like torturous or anything that was newsworthy, but I think that I experienced a lot of lows that children should not be exposed to.
Gotcha. Safe. Okay. So when I'm reading Love Made Me Do It, right? Mm-hmm. Obviously, it's about a relationship.
It is. It's about several relationships, actually.
That's right. So let's talk about the guy.
Oh.
Does he have a nickname that we could go by to refer to?
We can call him T.
We can call him T.
He definitely knows about the book. And his rebuttal when before we came into this healing space that we are in now as 10 years out of the relationship, he said that he was going to write a sequel and it was going to be called 12 Years a Slave.
That's crazy that you say that because when I went back there, it's a book called that.
There is a book called that.
When I just went back there.
Just back there right now.
Yeah.
I was smitten by him the moment I laid eyes on him.
You was what?
Smitten. In love. Nose wide open. I was...
So where'd y'all meet at?
At his house.
Okay. Now, I'm asking you questions not because I read the book. It's because the people at home haven't read the book.
So at the time that I met him, I did not know how to drive.
Okay.
And a childhood friend of mine, she came to my house and we were going to go on a nighttime driving lesson. She was dating his friend or his brother, one of the two. She was dating one of them. And she said, oh, let's stop by here. So I literally was hand delivered to him right on his doorstep.
Gotcha. And you still shining.
Yeah, he was really like no one I had ever met before. But granted, I was only 20 years old.
And how old was he?
25. And I was engaged to be married.
Yeah. So yeah.
It's a lot. It's a lot to unpack.
Okay. So the guy, the fiance.
Yes.
The fiance.
Oh, very crazy. We can call him very crazy.
Okay.
And I know crazy.
So this is what I want to know. You know how they say you are what you attract, which I don't.
Absolutely.
You believe that?
I have moments of batshit craziness.
Okay.
And I think that we all do. If we're really honest with ourselves, no one is 100% getting it right. We're all a work in progress. And I do work in mental health. So I would like to extend grace, not only to myself, but for those of us who are still in the processing phase of things that make them present as unwell.
Okay. So how did the fiance, how did he get it? How did T snatch you from fiance?
You know, I am actually not sure, but I just know that when I met him, T, and we were all gathered, my friend, his brother, his friend, and him in his dining room, and we were playing dominoes. I just remember like his gaze had me. And I remember taking off my my shoe and my sock and going up his pants leg, and we just had this like strong gaze. And I didn't want to be with my fiance anymore after that.
Just like that. So how did you go get your shit back? I mean, excuse me. How did you go get your things, your property?
It was a long, drawn out process. And you know, anytime you've been in a relationship, no matter.
Oh, can I just ask one question?
Yes.
At this point, had your fiance met T face to face like they were like?
No.
Okay.
No, that came a little bit later because, so what happened was I stayed with T the whole night. That first night, stayed there the whole night. The next,
y'all played dominoes the whole night?
We played adult dominoes the whole night.
Big six.
Hey.
To the board.
So what's crazy is Crazy had already had some discrepancies, I would say, within the relationship. There was some things that had happened. So I would say we were definitely on shaky ground.
Gotcha.
And I don't think that is a justification or appropriate. Cheating is not an appropriate response to a relationship being shaky. That was how I responded.
That's how you justified it.
I highly do not recommend.
Okay.
So I stayed with him the whole night, and then the next day, mind you, I don't drive, so I'm with my girlfriend. I'm at my girlfriend's mercy, and we go back to my house, and she wants to know what happened. She wants to know, and I don't want to tell her. And I'm like, nah, I had to take this to my grave. Like, I'm really, even though in my heart, I'm like, oh, I'm just going to leave bruh and go be with T. There's some things in between that absolutely need to be worked out and clarified and defined. So I wind up telling her. I couldn't hold it in. She wouldn't stop asking. So we were in my dining room. So it's my good girlfriend. So I'm telling her all the stuff. And I still remember this day like it was yesterday. I had a pantry that was my pantry did not have the standard door.
Okay.
It had a sliding door.
That's right.
And like in the middle of the story, the sliding door slides open. And he was in his drawers, smoking a cigarette with the Bible open. And he said, God told me that you were a whore. And it was pretty much like lights out for us after that. It was a lot of physical struggle. He basically held me and my girlfriend hostage in the house. I mean, he was a husky dude. So, and again, we were young. I was 20, she was 19, or I had turned 21 during the course of I think it was 3 weeks. I had met T before my 21st birthday. And he literally took everything in my jewelry box and said to go get him as much liquor as I could get with this jewelry, because he had no money and I wasn't willing to give him money for alcohol. That was one of our
This is your fiance, right?
Yes, that was one point of contention in our relationship, is that he was an alcoholic and I didn't know. And I don't think that I was well versed enough to recognize what an alcoholic was, because a lot of things that I seen in my childhood, I normalized that were actually not normal.
Come on now.
So we went and we got 2 6-packs of Cisco, and we basically waited for him to pass out. And when he passed out, I grabbed as many clothes as I could and I went back to T's house.
And was that the last time you seen your fiance?
No, that was not hardly the last time. So ultimately, he jumped out of bushes over the course of me leaving him. He lit my apartment on fire with all my clothes. He left me with only the clothes that I had on for that day. So it was a lot of back and forth. Breakups don't happen overnight, even the ones that are severely abusive. Unfortunately, that's just the cycle, and that was a cycle that I was caught in.
Okay. Now I have to ask you one question. What do you think your fiance's best attribute was?
He was into me.
Gotcha.
He was into me. And when you grow up with a father that is in and out because of a number of different reasons, you learn to accept the bare minimum from men, the attention, the just the game, the cat and mouse. And that was something that I experienced with my own father, the cat and mouse of, trying to get him to pay attention to me, to be there for me, to stick around, to stop using drugs, to stop doing this. And no matter how I performed for him as one of his children, ultimately that just was not our destiny as father and daughter.
Subconsciously, what percentage do you think that you look for your father and the man that you chose to during this time?
The percentage?
Yeah.
A lot.
Okay.
I would say a huge percentage.
Okay. Like over 50?
Probably about that.
Okay.
Maybe about 53 if I'm being honest.
Yeah, just tipping the scale to the majority side.
I think that we in society, we love to throw phrases and hashtags around like daddy issues, or just speak about that very, very lightly. It's a very serious thing, especially culturally.
Of course.
Absentee fathers, because again, of whatever reason, the father's just not around. And now I know how pivotal it is and important it is for you to have that, for the father-daughter dynamic.
Of course.
Again, if your father is present, that shows you what to aim for in a partner.
Well, you know what? I'm glad you said that, because before we get into the T story, right?
Hey.
Before we get into the T story, because it's a story about T. Right? T and T.
It is a story about T.
So this is what I want to know. You said that it's important for the fathers to show the girls what that's like to be.
Yes, that's what builds self-esteem in little girls.
Of course. Now this is what I want to know. In your opinion, you're a damn fool. In your opinion, do you think that ladies are raising their sons to know how to deal with women?
I would hope so.
No, I'm saying with the men that you've actually been with.
No, there were some piss poor mothers.
Okay.
If I'm being honest, and not hateful, not resentful, not vengeful, not spiteful, not any of that. Some mothers did not do their job. And Some people might say my mother didn't do her job.
Okay.
But again, our parents only know what they know. They don't know what they don't know. So they did the best. And that's how I would like to describe my parents. They didn't know what they didn't know.
Gotcha. Okay. So, so when I'm saying like, and I'm agreeing with that. When I say mothers teaching their sons how to, be men to women, is that possible? Or do you think that it really takes the mama and the dad or the mom to be in a healthy relationship with a man? I'm basically saying this. Does the child have to see a two-parent thing going on to know exactly how that acts to be in a healthy relationship? Could it come from a single parent household is what I'm saying.
I don't think it's necessarily a prerequisite, but I do think that it's helpful.
Gotcha.
And I don't think that I could really speak on it too intelligently because I'm not a parent. Okay.
Now we finna open up the book of tea.
Okay.
So now it's just you and T and T. So when did it start getting crazy?
I think it was crazy from day one. It was a one-night stand that turned into a 10-year relationship. Literally a one-night stand, or what was supposed to be a one-night stand.
So
he loved me on like day 10. I loved him back on day 10. It was very intense. And that, we were right before we started rolling, we were talking, you were asking if I believe in the sign stuff. No, Pisces and Scorpios, it was a very intense connection from day one.
Okay. Was he your first love?
No. Like my second.
Your second? So say like you go into like the Coliseum, right? Like a famous what is it called? Coliseum, like arena, like a sports team. Mm-hmm. And at the Tamekia Sports Coliseum, is his jersey retired?
Absolutely.
Just
one of those ones. And to be quite honest, I don't have any regrets, but I have thoughts on that. And I wish that our story would have turned out different.
Of course.
But I am happy for him where he's at in life.
Gotcha. So in the book, you said that y'all used to smoke weed. Mm-hmm. And then he put some crack in it.
He did.
You didn't hear the popping?
I didn't know. I didn't know that was something that I had to look for within my relationship.
Come on now.
However, I wasn't so naive that I just thought it was just weed. I grew up with parents intermittently using drugs in the house. My dad, a hardcore addict. So I think I just turned a blind eye because I didn't want to think that somebody I loved and somebody who loved me back would do anything to hurt me.
Gotcha. And I also read at one point.
I love that you read it. Like you read it for real.
I did. I read it very quickly. When you sent it, so it's been maybe a year or two.
Yeah.
But I read it. Okay. So y'all was in the Bay, if I remember correctly, but then y'all moved to Reno or Las Vegas?
We were in Castro Valley and we moved to Vegas.
Talk about the Vegas, the bright lights.
Well, when we moved to Vegas, we were actually like trying to get clean.
Okay.
When we started, we were smoking Grimmies. And for those of you who don't know what a Grimmie is, it's a blunt laced with crack.
That's right.
Sometimes it could be, a blunt laced with cocaine.
Okay.
It's about the same.
So I just want to know this because the people
want to know.
The people want to know. Hey. Is there a difference if somebody, let's say there's two twins, Michael and Michelle. If Michael smokes crack and Michelle snorts coke, is Michelle better off than Michael?
No, but I will say one is more socially acceptable than the other.
Okay.
You associate crack with bottom of the barrel. Whitney's famous line, crack is whack, free basing, bass heads, dope fiends, knocks. You don't necessarily associate that terminology with someone who snorts powder. Powder was like the upper echelon.
That's right. You said the upper echelon. It sounded like you was about to sell a motherfucking shrimp dinner out. You said that shit with some motherfucking chevy.
So when I did realize that, actually, I never realized that we were smoking crack until he came out and told me.
Yeah.
And how he told me is, this is not the kind that you snort. Do not snort this. I said, okay. And then, honestly, how we started really smoking crack, because I feel like when you're mixing it with weed, you're not really smoking it. But
That's
when
right.
you're hitting it in a pipe, you are really smoking it. Really smoking it. And the first time that I smoked from a pipe, well, he presented it to me. We had money for either dope or weed. Of course, dope is going to trump weed. But we were like, we can't really like mix it with the blunt insides like we do when we were rolling Grimmies. And then he like went next door. We were literally at the Commodore Motel. I don't even know if it's still around, but it's like around 106. You know, I'm from San Jose, so I'm not really sure what's what. But it was a Commodore Motel, and I think it's across the street from Huntsbury Market, over in that area. And there was this dope fiend. I know. There was a dope fiend next door, though. And he was also like the dope man, and he gave us this pipe. And T came back to the room, and I said, you know, if we hit this, it's a wrap. And let me tell you, it was a wrap. I went deaf, dumb, and blind all at one time. I put a $50 rock on my pipe. I didn't know nobody. I didn't go to the crack etiquette school. So I didn't know like how much I'm trying to get high. And it was a wrap after that.
So this is what I want to know. Obviously, T has been smoking crack.
No. So we were turned out.
Oh.
Let me back up. We were turned out on October 1st, 2000.
Okay.
Somebody passed us a Grammy, somebody in his family. And I moved away for a period of time to Phoenix. And when I came back, he was smoking blunts with the special sauce.
Okay.
And then it escalated.
Gotcha. So when y'all hit the pipe.
Mm-hmm. No, I had my own pipe.
Okay.
I had to hit my own pipe.
Because
what I learned about being an addict is you need to have your own lighter, you need to have your own pipe, you need to have all your own works, because once you are in like addict phase, you're not sharing with nobody. Everything is an inconvenience because it's something inside of you is calling you to get to where you need to be, and only the drug can give you that.
I know that's right. You saying this shit like it's textbook mixed with KMEL,
hey.
You know. So this is what I want to know. Talk about your first high. How did it feel, your first high?
Like I said, deaf, dumb, and blind. My ears rang for probably 2 to 3 minutes. And then the paranoia kicks in. The paranoia kicks in like immediately. And as much as I fought with myself, like not to be this version of who I was, the drugs were more powerful than my willpower. Gotcha.
So the crack and then abusive boyfriend, it led you to prostitution?
It did. So in between there, T didn't start off abusive. Definitely the drugs changed the profile of our relationship. When you can't get it, or there's not enough, or the dope man is on some bullshit, it's the other personality that kicks in. And I probably had some of like the abusive tendencies as well. I just wasn't physical with my abuse. My abuse towards him was probably more mental and emotional. So I actually didn't know like what was going on when prostitution entered the chat. I got dropped off on Wilson Way in Stockton, which is a known, I don't know about now because this was 10 plus years ago now, was a known hoe stroll. It's a tongue twister in Stockton. And I had this mini skirt on. I was under the impression that we were doing something way different than what actually had transpired that night. And he told me to get out, and he said he'll pick me up when he thinks that I have money. And I'm like, well, I don't even have a cell phone. Like, what? How? He was like, well, don't act all San Jose. Okay. And I think he came back around maybe like 30, 40 minutes. And I was still standing outside. It's like the dead of winter. And I'm in a mini skirt and heels. Because I'm thinking I'm going on a date with my boyfriend. But he's actually turning me out. And a trucker picked me up. An old white man. And it was seemed very easy. It wasn't, I don't want to say it's natural, because I don't think that those are natural experiences. And by natural, I'm saying like that's not something that you prepare for. That's not something that's taught in school. That's not something that's in your household unless your parents are also a part of that type of lifestyle, which mine were not. so it wasn't natural for me. But it became a means to an end.
Gotcha. And how long did you, stay in the life?
I want to say it was like hit or miss. Maybe it was like a few months here, a few months there over the course of maybe like a year and a half. Mm-hmm. First of all, it's a very rough lifestyle.
Yeah.
And I seen a lot of things that again were like not natural. It was that's not a natural lifestyle.
Yeah.
And thinking back, I am lucky that somebody did not kill me.
So that's what I was gonna ask you. Did you befriend any
Yeah, you have to. I was like, I forgot a renegade. That's what they call them, a renegade. I didn't have like somebody who was an identified, labeled P in the game.
Wouldn't that be T at this point though? Wasn't he your protector?
I guess, but I don't think protectors really double as like boyfriends the way he doubled as a boyfriend. At that point, it was like my life partner. But I could see some correlation. Yeah, of course you make friends. You have to. If not, you don't have to just worry about the Johns. You also have to worry about the women. If you don't make friends out there, you have to worry about everybody. And I just have one of those type of personalities. First of all, I'm going to ask questions. I would consider myself a friendly woman. So it was not hard for me to befriend girls that were out there.
Gotcha. And in this course of conversation, did you run into any people that was out there because they've been human trafficked?
If I did, because it was so long ago, we're talking like 2000, about 2003, 2004. If there was some human trafficking, I was not woke enough to recognize that's what it was because I was still sitting in my own shit.
Gotcha. Well, speaking of sitting, talk about your sit down time in the pen.
Woo. It was just like you see on TV. I was very scared. I was scared. And it was for a probation violation. And I had a very, very no-nonsense judge who has since retired. His name was Judge Mosley, but they called him Hang 'em High Mosley. Probation was your one chance.
White man?
Yes, very white. His son was also in the system, and I think that's kind of what propelled his movement for drug court, which I was a part of. So after 3 failed attempts in rehab and I think 13 trips to various county jails between California and Las Vegas, I was sent to prison. And ironically, prison, it's called the FMWCC Correctional Center, but it's on Smiley Road. So people dubbed it Smiley Road. There's no smiles on Smiley Road. There is women who are on Snapped. There's killers. There's people who shot AK-47s at the police. And here I was on a probation violation trying to kick a habit. Scary. On the second day that I was there, somebody chose me to be their girlfriend.
I was going to get into that.
Yeah.
Tell me about
P. We call her P.
P.
Call her P.
Shout out to P.
Put a little respect on her. Just a little tiny bit. Not a lot. Because P was actually a lot of her characteristics embodied men that I had been involved with as far as like the abusive part. But I say put a little respect on her name because she did look out for me and I was in a new environment and she was a 3-time felon.
Gotcha.
Scary. She literally passed me a note under my mattress and said, I know you're not gay, but you're going to need me and I'm a shark around here. There was like not a choice. There wasn't a choice there.
Now, I'm going to ask you, did you love her?
I think at some time during my 1 year, I absolutely had admiration for her that could correlate with some of the feelings of love.
And is it different? Was it different for you? Like, what was the difference between being in a relationship with a woman and being in a relationship with a man? Do they require different things?
No, they don't require different things, but their needs are very different. And her being a stud, I hope stud is still politically correct. I don't want to get the LGBTQ plus community in an uproar because it's ever changing. But she was a stud, and there was a lot of rules that come with being with a stud, and there was a lot of rules that come with being with someone in prison. there is a different set of rules. Like I wasn't supposed to talk to nobody, don't know direct eye contact with other studs. Her expectations were that of a partner, but we're not incarcerated. Like, you want me to wash your clothes? Well, we in prison. And I don't want to microwave this chicken until it looks fried. Like that's not me. I'm not in the kitchen in my real life, in my relationship. So I don't want to be on the struggle bus, kitchen, microwave, and in the pen. It was a hard transition for me, and she was super abusive, but she also paid what she weighed. So it was a win-win for me, because you do need a level of, I don't want to say protection, but you need to have some camaraderie when you get out of when you hit GP. You definitely need to have that. And I did time. You see the people that you did county time with, and, some familiar faces, but to have someone that was like down for me, like right when I got there, that meant something. And it did make my time a little bit easier.
Okay. So while you had a relationship inside the pen, did you also have a relationship going on at the same time outside?
Yes, with T. We were still heavily in contact. His mom was piggybacking letters for us, and that communication also helped make my time easier, as I hope it made his time easier too.
Gotcha. Oh, so he was in the...
Yes, so he's my co-defendant in 12 cases. And our 13th case was us getting sent to prison, basically for the same thing, which is a probation violation. We were on the run, so that's an automatic felony if you abscond from probation, and that's what we did. So I never went to jail without him.
Gotcha. And how did y'all get caught?
He was speeding. We had been on the run for 10 months. I had absconded not only from probation, but from my rehab. And it was crazy because I normally carpooled, and I remember us waking up late because the night before he didn't feel well. He had, over the course of our addiction, he acquired a heart condition that had him with 2 replaced stents in his heart. So the night before, I remember he wasn't feeling well. We overslept, and I said, hey, so-and-so can't pick me up. I need you to take me to work. And we worked on the other side. I worked on the other side of town from where I lived in North Las Vegas, and he was doing about 87, and Highway Patrol pulled us over.
Wow.
I actually was scot-free. They had given the keys back because I had an alias. Shout out to my sisters, because I used a combination of all their names.
Okay.
I mean, I was wild back then. And when I saw that they were taking him, I said, oh, whenever I get caught, I'm not going to be able to withstand going to jail by myself. I need him. He's my security blanket, very codependent, abusive, toxic relationship on both ends. And split second before the police officer probably put his keys in his car, I said, let me tell you who I am, Tamekia Nicole Johnson, blah, blah, blah. This is my real date of birth. And I have 2 felony warrants out. Thinking, because I'm taking this level of responsibility, by the way, we had been clean almost 3 months. I was feeling good. I was feeling confident enough to not necessarily turn myself in, because I didn't think my crime was egregious enough for them to not give me another chance, even though I knew I had this specific type of judge. But I was wrong. I mean, I had my outstanding money owed to probation. I had a job. I had a lot of character letters. So I was blown away that they sent me. They were going to call the psych nurse for me, the way I dropped to my knees in that courtroom when they told me that I was going to prison. And it was like that scene in Malcolm X when he's still with Spike Lee, how they're throwing all this time at him, and you're hearing consecutive and concurrent, and I don't even know what's going on because I just hear all of this time. It was 3 counts of this, 4 counts of this, and all to run. Baby, what did you just say? And I remember pinching myself in the courtroom is this really happening? And when them big ass prison guards came and got me, that shit was really happening.
How much did they give you? 2 years?
They gave me, I think they gave me a 1 to 4 and a 1 to 6. And because I was a low level It's a low-level felony. For those of you that don't know, it goes from A to E, and I was an E felony. So it was actually, in Nevada, it's considered a wobbler. If I completed probation and completed drug court, they would have dropped it down to a gross misdemeanor. Now, if I violated, then you leave with the F, and I left with the F.
Oh. So now, out of the pen. You out of the pen, and you get out of the pen before he gets out the pen.
I did 1 year, and he did 2.
Okay. So now that you free and he gets out, do y'all hook back up?
No. When I got out, I went to a halfway house. Shout out Covenant of Love. Very treated us with respect. We're
okay.
Ex-felons, some of us ex-addicts. I stayed there 3 months. Actually, I went, shout out to my job, BDI. They let me back 3 days after I got out. And that was a huge blessing. And that was the catalyst that I needed to just kind of find my bearings in this. I can do this without T. So I was there. I stayed in Nevada for 6 months. 6 months after I got out, still corresponding with him, still sending him money, sending him pictures, doing all the stuff that I felt like would really save our relationship. But I came home. I came back to the Bay Area. And what my plan in my head was to rebuild so that when he got out, he could have this. I was scared straight. Like, if you didn't have a driver's license and no insurance, I'm not getting in the car with you. Like, I can't do it. I'm terrified of police back seats. I didn't want that life anymore. And the day that he got out, he got high and he got drunk. And that was like, for me, that was a sign, like, I can't go back to this. I'm going to die. At one point during our addiction, we were smoking about $900 a night. You know how hard that is on your body to smoke $900 of crack a night? It's insane. I'm surprised, like, I still have, like, my face intact, my teeth intact, most of my mental health intact. And I wanted to make it work. And then it just didn't. And he came out here, I want to say about 6 months after he got out, and he had family in Stockton, and I drove from San Jose to Stockton, and it was like our goodbye. And it wasn't hostile. It was sad. It was sad. Like, for somebody who I had such admiration and love for, would have basically laid down my life for him, gave him the shirt off my back as his woman. That was hard, but I knew that it was necessary. And what I've learned over the years is it's okay, like, to not be for somebody. It's okay for things to not work out. In the moment, it feels really bad. It hurt me a lot to see the demise of our relationship. But at that point, I had to make a decision if I love myself more than I loved being with him and feeling secure with him, which he was providing me no security at that time. And he's done well. I've been clean 14 years this January, and I think he's been clean about 7. He had a couple relapses. You know, you had to find his bearings. He actually married a friend of ours, somebody who we used to double date with, but that's a whole nother story within itself. We don't even have time for that. But I love that he calls me every birthday. He has not missed a birthday in 10, 12 years. And I feel like he is not a man that showed a lot of accountability back in those days. But in hindsight and in foresight, I feel like he knows I'm a big birthday person. That's his everlasting gift to me, is to acknowledge me on my birthday. And and I acknowledge him on his birthday. I kiki with him here and there. If it's been a long amount of time, like, we might tap in with each other, or something he'll remember something that reminded him of good times of me, and I'll do the same. I totally respect where he's at in life. I'm really proud of him. He quit a lot of things cold turkey, and I feel as Black men already, you have so much on your back to be responsible for. To see him take his life back and speak life into those around him, especially his children and now his grandchildren, that I love that for him.
Gotcha. Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
For sure. So tell people where they can find you at, the book, and everything.
Well, you can find Love Made Me Do It on Amazon. Just type in Love Made Me Do It by Tamekia Nicole. You can also follow me on IG, Miss T Nicole. If you have a dog, you can also follow your dog's best friend on IG. I do mobile pet sitting, and please, please, please be on the lookout. I have new material dropping this year. I don't want to like reveal the name or reveal too much because I don't want to over announce and underproduce. You know, if we're creators, I feel like we all can kind of fall into that pattern. Nobody is safe from that, but this October is the 10-year anniversary of when Love Made Me Do It came out. So what I'm looking forward to is showing a different type of writing style, to show range, to show, you know, where I'm at in life. I'm not that doom and gloom. Well, I'm a little doom and gloom. I think that's a natural part of life, but I'm not that crackhead who turned her life around. I'm so much more now, and I'm really excited about what's to come.
For sure. Well, again, thank you for coming out.
Yeah.
Well, I'm LD's also known Lawrence One for another episode of I Need to Know, and as usual, come on.